That's great. Father, thank you for the day, and we thank you for the book of Leviticus. Please give us the understanding that how us have in order to properly understand what this book is saying. We know it's has to do with the law, and we thank you that we are under grace. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so Leviticus chapter 13. Let's Mrs. Grummer, go ahead and start with verse 1, please. Jacob, you start with verse 1.
I'm not even in the room. I came to get her.
Okay. Is it one of Bill's favorite verses?
And he's not here.
He's not here.
Oh, no, Bill's not there either?
No. Maybe they're meeting each other someplace.
Leviticus 13, verse 1.
Shall reign 1 year, and
Not First Kings, or maybe I missed what book it up. Miss Remember, it's Leviticus.
I'm in the wrong book.
Yes. Yes.
I'll take it, Mr. Dan. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying.
All right, Barbara, verse 2.
When a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab, or a bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priests.
And the priest shall look on the plague in the skin of the flesh. And when the hair of the plague is turned white, and the plague is in sight, be deeper than the skin of his flesh, it is a plague of leprosy. And the priest shall look at him and pronounce him unclean.
If a bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and in sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days.
And the priest shall look on him the seventh day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay, and the plague spread not in the skin, and the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. All right, so we see here in verse 1, again, the Lord is speaking to both Aaron and Moses. And during this time period, before the close of the canon of Scripture, and around 190 to 180 or so, the Lord did speak to people directly. Some special people, He spoke to them directly. And He spoke to Moses and Aaron. And He told them about this plague of leprosy. And if someone did have the plague of leprosy, they were to be able to be brought to Aaron, the priest. That's the people, when you had a plague of leprosy, when we came down with the plague of leprosy, that's where one was to go. The leprosy is something that goes down with the skin, and it eats away the skin, eats away the flesh. And so some of these symptoms we'll see here, what the leprosy is. Rising of the flesh, you got a scab, you got bright spots, different colors, tonations of the skin. This is what leprosy is all about. And so it needed to be properly diagnosed. And the priest was the one that would do it. We would go to the priest and he would say, you have it, you don't have it. And if it would not go away after a certain amount of time, you would have to stay outside the camp, stay away from other people in the children of Israel, so that it would not be contagious, but they would not catch it as well. Mrs. Grummer, if an individual, verse 3, question 3 from verse 3, Mrs. Grummer, if an individual is yes.
Oh, answer the question in verse 3?
Yes, well, read the question and answer it, please.
Oh, okay. Oh. If an individual is discovered to have leprosy, then what will the priest pronounce? He pronounce him unclean.
Yeah, for 7 days he would be considered unclean for 7 days, and we see that and so on the seventh day the priest was to look at him again on the seventh day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at stay, the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall shut him up 7 more days. So if there's no more further spreading, but it's still there, it's 7 more days. Barbara, your thought?
His pronouncing him unclean has to do that he's ritually defiled and unfit for the sanctuary. And may I make another comment?
Please do. Mm-hmm.
The concept of leprosy in Hebrew includes leprosy, syphilis, smallpox, boils, scabies, fungus, eczema, psoriasis, and impetigo. So it's a broad.
It's a broad thing, both in people and
it has to do with all your skin.
Then in houses as well. There's some it can conveys the idea of mold. Certain types of molds would be considered like leprosy. It doesn't use the word mold, but that's what I think they're getting at when in a house itself. And some type of discoloration in the plaster and the walls. Ms. Grummer, go ahead and read verse 6, please. And then Jacob, verse 7, it's over. Verse 6. Maybe you are on mute. I don't know. Are you still there, Mrs. Grummer? Jacob?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Yes, okay, I understand.
Sorry.
Not a problem.
And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague is somewhat dark, the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is but a scab. He shall wash his clothes and be clean.
Hello?
Jacob, verse 7.
Okay. But if the scab set much abroad in the skin after they have been skin of a priest for his cleansing, he shall be skin of the
And if the priest see that, behold, the scab spreadeth in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy.
Verse 9.
I've lost my place. I was thinking about
Leviticus chapter 13, verse 9.
When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest.
And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, or if it have turned the hair white, and there be quick raw flesh in the rising,
It is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. So it's going back to verse 6 here. As we see, if the leprosy is dark, it's going to he'll be considered clean because it's just a scab. Now, Jacob, in verse 7, please answer. Read question 7 and answer it for me.
If the scab spreads abroad in the skin, he shall be seen of the
Okay, so he has to again be seen by the priest again. And so the priest, I guess, had developed a good skill of looking at people's skin, and if there was a clear problem with it, they would either wait, either pronounce them clean or be unclean. So there'll be there's a process that's going on with this whole thing. And so we see in verse 8. And if the priest shall behold the scab spreadeth in his skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprosy. So again, if it's something that spreads, and sometimes some of these things that are contagious, it is considered unclean. And we need to stay away from things that are unclean, things that are contagious, both in a physical sense, but also in a spiritual sense. We don't want to be tainted with things that are like leprosy in a spiritual sense. We want to avoid those sorts of things. And so when we see, again in verse 9, when someone has the plague of leprosy in them, they got to be brought before the priest. Mom, your thought?
Well, when I was younger, if you had mumps or chickenpox or any of those diseases, you had a sign that you put on the house.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knew that there was that disease was in that house.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes.
I was really young, and I was recently out of the hospital, so some of this is vague. But I do remember on Waite Avenue seeing these signs, and I don't know when that stopped, when people stopped doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I ever had to put, maybe for some of the younger children, had to put out a sign of what we had.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really remember.
Okay. And so they would be identified as having a certain sickness that was contagious.
Yeah, in the house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting about the priest or his sons. They must have been very busy doing this. Just think of all those people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
And
this wasn't the only thing they had to do.
yeah.
You know, they were responsible for the sacrifices and so forth.
Sacrifices and time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And just think how lonely their lives were.
Mm-hmm.
And it took until David to put them in an order for the temple.
I just, I can't hear.
And they had their things. You were talking about all the priests and everything that they had to do, but it wasn't until David that they actually set up the courses to take care of all this. And I'm going,
It started in David's time?
Yeah, the courses did. David set it all up.
Oh, okay.
Mm-mm. So
I thought they had it before.
Not the way David set it up. I'm sure they had an order because God has order to everything, but not in the way that David set up the service of the priests and their courses.
Barbara, question 10, please, from verse 10.
What color might the rising and the hair be? White.
It could be white, yes. And in verse 11 we see what pronouncement is made upon the man who has the old leprosy, unclean. He should be shut up again for he's unclean. Ms. Grumber, go ahead and read verse 12, please.
And if the leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that has the plague from the head even to his foot, whosoever the priest looketh.
Then the priest shall consider, and behold, if leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean to that plague. It is all turned white, he is clean.
But when raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean.
Do I do 15?
Yes, please.
15. And the priest shall see the raw flesh and pronounce him to be unclean. For the raw flesh is unclean. It is a leprosy.
Or if the raw flesh turn again and be changed unto white, he shall come unto the priest.
And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean, that he hath a plague, he is clean. And so in verse 12, how expanse can this leprosy be? Anywhere from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. That's how where leprosy is spread. And one pronouncement is given. If it turns white, he's going to be pronounced clean. And my question 14, please.
What if raw flesh appears on the skin? The man or woman is unclean. I imagine a woman. They just the man is unclean.
He's going to be unclean. That's correct. Now see in verse 15, the priest will see the raw flesh and pronounce him to be unclean, for the raw flesh is unclean. It's a leprosy, some sort of leprosy. That's what that would indicate. It's some kind of leprosy. And we see in verse 16, when we cause someone with leprosy to come unto the priest, if the raw flesh turn again and be changed white, he's going to come. So the raw flesh is changing color, changing form. It comes to the priest again. Tammy, question 17, please.
What is the plague?
I should say if. I'm sorry.
What if the plague turns white? Well, it's clean.
Okay. I'm going to pronounce him clean. All right, Mr. Garber, go ahead and read verse 18, please.
Okay. The flesh also in which went in thereof was well and is healed. And Jacob had laid the Roman.
Okay. All right, Barbara, verse 19.
And in the place of the boil there be a white rising or a bright spot white and somewhat reddish, and it be showed to the priest.
20? Verse 20, please, Mom.
And if when the priest seeth it, behold, it is in sight lower than the skin, and the hair thereof be turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy broken out of the boil.
But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days.
And it was spread much abroad in the skin, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. So we see in verse 18, at times what could be healed in the skin when it's a boil. The flesh also, which even in the skin there was a boil and is healed. So sometimes it's not leprosy, it's something other than leprosy. And so we see the color of this bright spot. It's either a white color or it's a reddish color. That's the color of the spots. Mrs. Grummer, question 20, please. Question number 20. What could break out of the boil?
Leprosy.
Verse 20, Mrs. Grummer.
She just gave you
What
the...
can break out of leprosy?
Okay, thank you. That's right. You got it. For how many days would one be shut up? 7 days. We see that. We saw that in a few verses before. But they're going to be shut up 7 days. Give us some time for it to clear up, or perhaps not clear up. And so, on what grounds would the priest pronounce someone unclean? If it starts spreading through the skin, then the person would be pronounced unclean. All right, Mrs. Grummer, 23, please. Please read verse 23.
But if the bright spot stay in his face and spread not, it is a burning boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean.
Won't there be any flesh in the skin? Wherever there is a hot burning, quick flesh that have a white spot, somewhat reddish or white.
Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot be turned white, and it be in sight deeper than the skin, it is the leprosy broken out of the burning. Wherefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy.
But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hair in the bright spot, and it be no lower than the other skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days.
And the priest shall look upon him the 7th day, and if it be spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy.
And if the bright spots stay in his place, and spread not in the skin, but it be somewhat dark, is a raising of the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is an inflammation of the burning. And so looking back to verse 23, the diagnosis of the priest, the spot, he's going to say it's going to be a burning boil, and so he will be pronounced clean. Tammy.
Does that mean that, when you get a burn, then you have then a blister? Is that what that would refer to?
That would be part of it. I think there's other ways of getting boils too. I'm not sure what would cause the boil, but that's one example of a boil.
Well, I'm just thinking of the adjective burning.
Yes, that's right.
Trying to determine.
As the boils as a result of some type of burning, or the burning could be have reference to perhaps the coloration of it, I suppose. But the boils are usually reddish anyway. Barbara?
And extremely painful.
Yes, they would be painful. Yeah.
My stepdad had boils one time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was from eating too much honey. He bought 25 pounds of honey and just ate it.
Honey?
Okay.
Honey. Yeah. So, and the doctor said it was from all the honey, and it's just...
Okay.
But he had boils everywhere. It was awful.
That's something.
Agony.
Follow up with thought, Amy.
Well, I just have a question.
Yes.
I thought a boil was white because it would have like the liquid under it, and maybe pus. There might be pus in it. So wouldn't it appear more whitish than Then reddish?
Look like pimple.
Yeah.
With the white.
Yeah,
and
probably
red around it.
probably wood tanning.
Right,
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking of blisters that I've gotten with burnings,
Yes.
and then trying to determine if that's what it would look like, more or less.
Right. Yeah, that probably would.
Okay.
That's probably how it would look. Jacob, question 24, please.
How is the flesh described in Leviticus 13:24? Somewhat reddish or white?
Okay. So reddish or white, that's right. It's a burning, hot burning boil that burneth. And what would the priest do to the hair of the bright spot turns white? If the leprosy broken out of the burning, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. So it's going to be pronounced unclean if that hair or something spot turns white. The hair on top of the boilish thing turns a white color. And so if it's dark in verse 26, again, the priest is going to shut him up for 7 days to have him come back in 7 days to see what's going to happen next. Barbara, question 27, please.
What occurs for the priest to pronounce someone unclean? Well, there's a whole list here. The priest shall look upon it and behold if the hair is the bright spot turned white, and if it be in sight deeper than the skin.
And it's spreading, right? It's also spreading as well.
So 7 days, right?
Yeah, so he's shut up 7 days, and
He was shut up, so after.
yeah, after 7 days, yeah, that's right. After the 7th day, he's going to look at him again, and if it's still spreading, then he's going to be considered unclean as well. And what's the priest's pronouncement? If the spots stay in its place, he's going to be pronounced clean. If it doesn't change, or if it doesn't change or spread any further. All right, Mr. Gerber, read verse 29, please.
Read.
Yes, read.
If a man or woman has a plague upon the head or the beard,
Then the priest shall see the thing. Behold, he inside deeper skin, and if there be in it a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. Is a dry skull. With leprosy of the head or beard.
And if
All right, I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And if the priest look on the plague of the skull, and behold, it be not in sight deeper than the skin, and that there be no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague of the skull 7 days.
Verse 32.
32, that's where I lost my place. That's why I was 32. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the scab spread not, and there be in it no yellow hair, and the skull or scale be not in sight deeper than the skin.
He shall be shaven, but the skull shall he not shave, and the priest shall shut up him that hath the skull 7 days more.
And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the scale, and behold, if the scale be not spread in the skin, in the sight deeper than the skin, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. Hi, is this Faith? Are you there, Faith? Evan? Gary, are you there? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, I'm... Okay, I'm not sure, are you there, Faith? Hello? Hello, Faith? Gary? Evan? I guess we got disconnected. I mean, we're not. It doesn't seem like we're disconnected, but no one's answering. Okay. Hello. Is
What are you supposed to pick it up and talk to the person?
Hello?
Is that what they want?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to. There's a phone call that's. I didn't hear the phone ring. It has to come in on line, either line 1 or line 2. Are you still there, Jacob?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I think the person needs to call the number 856-854-4452.
That's correct. Yes. So I'm sorry, Faith or Evan or Gary. I think you were trying to call, and we were in the middle of. Okay, we're back. We're back again. Okay. All right. Hello.
Hello?
Hi, Faith.
Hi. Is it too late for me to join in the Bible study?
No, it's fine, Faith. You want to try?
He just got up a little while ago. I wanted him to go with me today over to your place.
Yes.
He got a store lumping in the mouth and he's all upset. So I said, all right, I'll stay here and I'll get on the phone here.
Yeah, we're talking about not necessarily. We're talking about leprosy and so forth, and sometimes discolorations of the skin and different texture of the skin in class today. Will you mind calling Faith 856-854-4452, and then we'll get you on a more permanent hookup.
Oh, okay. That's what, 854-4452?
856-854-4452.
Okay, because that's what I said to your father, and he said to call this number. So,
Okay.
I'll call the other number.
That way we'll get you connected with the a conference call, and you could hear us, we could hear you. But just make sure you have to be cautious that there's the other conversations in the room. You have to have another conversation in the room. You have to put on mute, okay?
Yeah, all right.
All right, sure. Thank you, Faith. All right. Hi. Good to see you today. So in verse 29 here, we're going to get another call here real shortly. Are you there, Faith? Hi, good. Are you there, Jacob, still?
We got it.
Are you there, Jacob? And Ms. Grummer?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear Evan? Faith, can you hear Mrs. Grummer? Faith?
Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Okay, super. Great, I'm glad you're connected, Faith. Welcome to class. I'm sorry that Evan's not feeling the best today.
Thank you.
But we see in verse 29, where are some of the places the plague can reveal itself? So, and if a man or woman have a plague upon the head or the beard, it could be in hair, I guess, in the head, or if the man could have it be revealed in the beard. And so, Mom, in verse 30, question 30, please.
Question 30 or verse 30?
Question 30.
What is the characteristic of spots on the skin? What is wrong? What if the priest notices that the plague is deeper than the skin? I can't remember. Then the priest shall see the plague and behold it as a bright spot deeper than the skin. If there be in a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry skull or scale, even a leprosy upon the head or beard.
And so it's being looked at and determined as a yellowish hair, and to look closer at it, and so then he's going to be pronounced unclean. And verse 31, when there were conditions with the priest, shut someone up for 7 days, if it's deeper than the skin, and there's no black hair if it's deeper than the skin. And so you look at it, the priest could get to develop the technique, and if it's deeper than the skin, then the person would be unclean. And so in verse 32, what type of hair was to be absent? And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, the scale spread not, and there be no yellow hair. So there be an absence of yellow hair, and the scale be not in the sight deeper than the skin. Then that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Jill, question 32, please. Probably question 33.
What was to become of hair prior to 7 more days of being shut up? The person shall be shaven.
Yeah, the hair was to be cut off, was to be shaven off. and then we'll see. Then we're going to wait and re-examine and see what was going to what would have to happen next. And what day should the priest evaluate the scale? Of course, that would be again waited for until the seventh day. Then the priest again would evaluate and see what it looks like, to see if there's any leprosy remaining. Okay, Mrs. Gordon, we're going to read verse 35. Verse 35.
Okay. But if the scald spread much in the skin after his cleansing,
And the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the scald be spread in the skin, the priest shall not see for yellow hair, he is unclean.
But if the scald be in his sight at a stay, and that there is a black hair grown up therein, the scald is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean.
If a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots.
I've lost my place.
Verse 39.
Then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spot in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot, and groweth in the skin. He is clean.
And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean.
And he that hath his hair fallen off from part of his head toward his face, he is forehead bald, yet he is clean. So, in verse 35, what might spread after the cleansing? The scale might spread after his cleansing. This may spread some more. So, Tammy, question 36, please.
36.
Yes.
For what is the priest not to seek? He's not to seek for yellow hair if the skull is spread.
All right, that's right. And in verse 37, what is one characteristic of the scale that has been healed? In verse 37, but if the scale be in his sight as at the stay, and there is a black hair grown up there, and the scale is healed. So if the black hair returns, then we have he's to be considered healed and be considered clean again. How are the spots in the skin described? As bright spots or white bright spots. That's how these spots are described. Faith, question 39, please, from verse 39.
verse 39 and question 39.
Okay, question 39. Mm-hmm.
Will you read verse 39?
Answer question 39. Question 39 is, do you have question 39 in front of you?
Oh, wait, okay. What is the characteristic of spots of the skin equivalent to clean? Leviticus 13:29. Okay, I got that. What about the hair? If the hair is black, it says.
Verse 39. What's the characteristics? Darkish white. Freckled spot.
I think she was looking at 29.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were looking at 29, Faith.
I'm sorry. Then the priest shall look at his ear, the bright spot on the skin upon her toe white. Okay, the white spot that grows on the skin.
All right, and in verse 40, how is one described whose hair is fallen off his head? He's bald, but he's clean. If someone loses their hair, or is losing their hair, they're bald. If they start losing the front of their hair, they're called forehead bald. Barbara.
Everything to this point has been a disease of some
Yes,
sort. Baldness is hereditary
It is. Mm-hmm.
through the mother.
That's right. Through the mother.
And my thought is that, that's okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The genetics is okay, but
Right.
but not the
Not the leprosy.
bacteria.
Not the leprosy. That's right.
That's interesting.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The mother.
Mrs. Grummer, read verse 42, please. And then Faith, and then Jacob.
And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white red sword, it is a leprosy, sprang up in his bald head or in his bald forehead.
Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white reddish, his bald head or his bald forehead, and leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh.
He is the leprous man. He is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean. His plague is in his head.
And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, unclean, unclean.
All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone without camp, shall his habitations be.
The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or linen garment.
Faith, would you like to read verse 48, please?
Sure.
Read the verse. Let's go.
Whether it is in the warp or woof, or in anything made of leather. Whether it is in the warp or woof, of linen or wool, whether in leather or anything made of leather.
Okay. He doesn't say whether in skin, whether in the skin or in things made of skin. In verse 49, and if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment or the skin, either warp or woof, or in anything of the skin, is a plague of leprosy, and shall be showed unto the priest. So, Mrs. Grummer, in verse 42, of what is a white reddish sore a sign? What's that a sign? Or what's that a sign?
No yellow hair.
In verse 42?
32.
A question, pardon me. You're right. 42. I gave you the wrong number. Question 42.
What is a white reddish sore a sign? Leprosy.
It's a sign of leprosy. And again, the priest is the one who's going to be looking upon the sore and determine whether or not it's a leprosy. And where is the plague located? If it's on his head, in this particular instance, in this verse, that's some places the leprosy could be manifest itself. So faith, question 45. What is to be done with the clothes of the leper?
1 second.
From verse 45.
1 second.
Okay?
His clothes should be torn, and his head bare. He shall cover it lest sanctified, unclean, unclean.
Okay, so his clothes should be rent, and he needs to cover up his upper lip and unclean. Tell people that he's unclean, that has some type of plague, that he's contagious. And where is the one with the plague to dwell? He's to dwell alone outside the camp. And what type of garment can the plague be? Leprosy occur in woolen garments or linen garments. Leprosy can occur. And Jacob, question 48, please.
48.
Yes.
That would be in the warp or the wolf. In a skin or anything made of skin, or of linen or of woolen.
All right.
The warp of anything linen, woolen, or anything made of skin.
Okay, the warp or the woof, how the garment's put together, horizontally, vertically, those type of things in the fabrics. What color is the plague? In a garment, it's either going to be a greenish color or a reddish color. Those are the colors. Mrs. Gerber, let's please read verse 50.
Did you say, and the priest shall look upon the plague and shut up if that had the plague 7 days?
He shall on the plague on the 7th day, the plague straight the garment, either in the warp or in the wool,
Barbara?
He shall therefore burn that garment, whether warp or woof, in woolen or in linen, or anything of skin wherein the plague is, for it is the fretting leprosy. It shall be burnt in fire.
And if the priest shall look, behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in anything of skin.
Then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more.
And the priest shall look on the plague after that it's washed, and behold, if the plague have not changed in his color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire. It is a fret inward, whether he bear it within or without.
And if the priest look, and behold, the plague be somewhat dark, after the washing of it, then he shall rend it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appear still in the garment, either in the warp or the woof, or in any of the skin, in a spreading plague, thou shalt burn it, that wherein the plague is, with fire. And the garment either warp or woof, or whatsoever thing of skin it be, which thou shalt wash, if the plague be departed from them, it shall be washed the second time, and it shall be clean. So, looking back here at verse... did I read the last verse?
You didn't read the last verse.
Verse 59. This is the law of the plague of leprosy in a garment of woolen or linen, either in warp or woof, or anything of the skin, to pronounce it clean or to pronounce it unclean. Looking back to verse 50 for a moment. For how many days was the priest to shut up with the garment with the plague of leprosy? Again, this is 7 days. He's to shut it up for 7 days. Yes.
Can it helps me to read these footnotes where it says warp and woof. Warp is footnote 2 on page 165.
Mm-hmm.
A weaving term, the threads running lengthwise in a loom and crossed by the weft or woof. And then 3, that'd be the woof, I guess. Weaving
So,
term.
what would the so go in this direction, all from the vertical position? That's the, what's that called? The vertical ones?
The warp, I think.
Okay. All right, and the woof goes the other way, right?
Yeah, I
Woof goes the other direction.
Weaving term weft. The yarn carried by the shuttle back and forth across the warp in wearing, in weaving. So that it helps me read.
Yes, that's good.
I don't know all these years what a warp and a woof was.
Okay, until today. That's good.
Well, until reading this chapter.
Horizontal, and the woof goes vertical.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Good. Understand that, Jacob?
I guess
Yes.
That piece be earlier.
people that knit and crochet and all that, I guess they understand these terms.
Well, this is weaving. This is a whole different ballgame.
Oh, okay, I'm on one of those racks.
Yeah.
Subtle, you have a... Yeah, so...
Now, if we talked about knitting and purling, I could help, but not purling.
Because that, you know that.
Knit one and pearl two. Okay, how is the plague of fretting leprosy classified? Again, it's classified as something that is unclean.
What question?
51 was 51. It's, Barbara, want to do question 52, please?
What was to be done with the garment that had leprosy? Burned with fire.
It were to be burned with fire, because the leprosy can be washed out, if it cannot be satisfied to be removed, it had to be washed by fire. And to who's to evaluate the garment? Again, here we have another job for the priest. They need to evaluate the garment to see if it's a leprosy or not that's present. For how many more days is the garment to be shut up? Again, 7 days. The garment had to be shut up for 7 days. Jill, question 55, please.
What was to be washed? The plague.
Okay. I'll look at the plague and wash, see if it can be washed out of the garment. Sometimes it was going to be able to be washed out, and sometimes it wouldn't be able to be washed out.
I thought the garment was supposed to be washed.
And the garment, yeah. It could be washed out. That's right. What was the priest to do if the plague was somewhat dark after washing? Again, this is referring to the garment that's being washed. He was supposed to rend the garment and see if he could get it right out of the garment. And if the leprosy remains after trying to rend it out, it's to be burnt. Mom, question 58, please.
What must be done if the plague is found to be departed from the garment? Wash the plague out of the garment the second time.
You wash it, if it's gotten out of the garment, then you wash it another time. And so Tammy, question 59 details of what law are established or were established here.
Well, it's the law of the plague of leprosy on a garment.
Yes.
Wool or linen.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Or skin.
Mm-hmm. So in verse question 60 there, Mrs. Grummer, what parallels does the plague of leprosy have to do with biblical separation? Question 60, Mrs. Grummer. What parallels does the plague of leprosy have to do with biblical separation?
I'm sorry, I'm kind of blank right now, too.
All right, Faith, question 60. What parallels does the plague of leprosy have to do with biblical separation?
For how many days did the priest show up the garment with the plague? Leviticus 13:50. Leviticus 13:50.
I'm looking for question 60.
Yeah, 1 second. Because somebody's beeping in my ears.
Okay.
Just let me find verse 50 here, okay?
Okay. No, it's question 60. 6.
Priest shut down the plague of isolating out of the plague 7 days.
Okay. All right. Jacob, thank you, Faith. Jacob, what parallels does the plague of leprosy have to do with biblical separation?
Are you asking about question 50?
No, I'm asking about question 60.
I know. Okay. Yeah, since Bill is not here, I'd say any kind of liberalism.
Okay, that's good.
What did you say?
Any, do you use your batteries then?
No.
Any kind of liberalism, he said.
Okay.
Especially biblical liberalism.
All right, now what? How is liberalism? What is? I was feeding back here. What is liberalism?
It's more like license. And they see this liberty as more like license. It's license, not life, but also in the scriptures themselves, they can make anything they want out of it.
I mean, there's aspects of biblical separation, personal separation, ecclesiastical separation, and in this particular instance you're mentioning here, Jacob, it has to do with ecclesiastical separation, liberalism. When churches and groups and denominations, when they fall away from sound biblical teaching, sound doctrine, and they start following false doctrine to attract the masses. I mean, Peel, Peel was a classical example. I mean, there's liberalism all over us, all around us today. And we have to be careful that it does not influence us in the wrong way, or in any way whatsoever. Jill, question 60.
Well, I put a few things for that, but a couple things, and then I was going to continue by, writing on the other side of the page, and then I forgot to continue, and therefore I also forgot, and I didn't realize, rather, there was even a question 61, so let me just read what I have.
Okay.
For
sure.
Question 60. What parallels does the plague of leprosy have with biblical separation? I put the plague of leprosy parallels with biblical separation in the sense that a little leaveneth the whole lump. So just a little bit of dirtiness or uncleanliness can make not just a garment but a person dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Not just physically but mentally.
Yes.
Spiritually, etc., etc. Also, a dirty hand makes a clean hand dirty, and not the other way around. We cannot deceive ourselves by thinking otherwise. In other words, hanging out with people who are not born again Christians, and we should not be unequally yoked with a variety of different random people.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And everything, and even those people who are going astray in the church, we shouldn't, even though we should try to encourage them and be prayerful with them and for them and everything like that. If they continue in their rebellion, we shouldn't be close with them either.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So
we shouldn't
think of these things in different ways.
Just like with leprosy, how it's contagious, and you got too close with someone with leprosy or anything that's contagious, you'll catch it. And so when you're talking about just going around people that have teaching false doctrine, people that are living wrongly, that could have an influence upon us. We may think, though, we were strong enough to resist it, but it's still, can have, just like leprosy, if you don't have maintained doctrinal purity, then it's going to permeate. Barbara, question 60.
This has to do with physical, like a blemish on your skin.
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
So this would be physical impurity.
Mm-hmm.
We are not to, Paul tells us, live as the Gentiles live, and fulfilling the lust of the flesh, fornication, and there was a whole bunch of other things.
Mm-hmm.
I see it as, if you're going to take it strictly as physical purity that's involved here, is we as the bride of Christ are to be called pure on many levels.
Mm-hmm.
Physically, emotionally, spiritually,
mm-hmm.
In our hearts. And that's in a nutshell.
Yes, let's go. Mm-hmm. My question 60, Mom.
What parallels does the plague of leprosy have with biblical separation? Well, let's see. Biblical separation is a complete separation from sin in a person or in an organization in which the person has fellowship. When we were at something at the Bible Presbyterian Church, I don't know if it was someone's funeral, and I was in a line with people, and I can't remember, and right up on the wall it says, "Be separate," or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard the people standing right next to me, wondering what that meant. And so I tried to tell them, they must have asked me, I can't remember. I must have told them it was this Bible verse. And I didn't do a very good job because I knew that they didn't know anything, about the word separate, and I didn't know where to just begin in a line there.
Right.
But, and I remember when I was a young girl, a new Christian, we were encouraged to lead a separated life.
Mm-hmm.
There's things you didn't do, there's things you did, things that you didn't wear, ways you talked, and all sorts of things when you were separated to the Lord. There's that verse, which I can't come up with it now. I know that verse, but I can't come up with it. I can't even think how it goes.
In 2 Corinthians chapter 6?
Probably. I used to know.
Wherefore come out from among them and come out.
Separate, touch not the unclean, for what fellowship is light from darkness and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we were taught about being a separated Christian. What's the question?
Good. I'm surprised. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised because you in this was everyone that's coming to some type of activity or service, in this case a memorial service or a funeral service. You would think they would have some type of either second-hand information about separation, about the history of the church, but
I didn't know. It was
but they don't.
Grown man.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
I'm just a rambling thought.
Okay.
Separation is absolutely not taught in the neo-evangelical world.
Right.
It's a foreign concept, and to bring it up is to have them look at you like you have three heads.
I'm judgmental and everything.
Oh, yeah. Case in point, the pastor's daughter was all, I came into a Bible study one time that the pastor's daughter taught, and she was all excited. She and her best friend, and they were discussing something. And I thought I had missed something important. And she I said, oh, what did I miss? They talked about there was a certain date of something, and she says, the new Star Wars movie's coming out.
Okay.
And I'm going, oh, I thought it was something important. And I said that out loud.
Right.
Did they come down on me like a ton of bricks? And I'm going, did I miss something? No, apparently not. But it was. They had no concept of this of separation of why they shouldn't even be looking at Star Wars. And then they said, as good as Star Wars was, Harry Potter was even better. And I'm going, okay, just shut up, Barbara, because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's those types of things are not important. You know, they should be avoided. You know, Jill.
As the people, just think this is okay, they just join together. That's where the ecumenism comes in. I mean, the evangelicals and the ecumenicals both think, all right, just love everybody, as long as we can get along, just, agree to disagree, and just, don't judge your fellow man. Just let them in. If they want to be in the church, that's fine. They must be a fellow Christian. If not, just, they can do their own thing.
Right. That's right. Tammy, question 60, please.
Well, I thought of how the church should separate from sin as how Israel was to separate from the person with the plague of leprosy, or the different infectious things. And so what came to mind was 1 Corinthians 5, 6, and 7, the one verse Jill mentioned. But your glorying is not good. They were glorying in the sin of fornication that had occurred in the church. And rather than doing what was biblical and purging it, they were glorying in it.
Yes.
Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? And Paul didn't want them to have that sin throughout the whole church. So he said, purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened, for Christ our Passover was sacrificed for us. So not only did they have a wrong attitude, but also that openly sinning person that was professing Christ needed to be put out of the church for his or her, in this case, his own good.
Yes.
And that's almost never done anymore. And if it's not purged, then you're going to have it's going to contaminate the whole church. And then I thought of 2 Corinthians 13:5, where it says, "Examine yourselves, whether you be in the faith, prove your own selves, how that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobate." So, we need to examine ourselves as well for sin, and also we need to be willing to discipline in the church.
Right. Good. Mrs. Gormer, question 61, please.
Well, I don't know how to answer that.
All right, Jacob. Or Faith, let's have you do 61 first. What are some key points you've observed from this chapter, and what do they mean to you?
Did you say me, Pastor?
Yes, what are some key points you've observed from this chapter, what do they mean to you?
Okay, what question was that? 51?
61.
Did you say 61? Because I only go up to 60 when the thing.
Well, look at the back.
61?
Yeah, turn the paper over. Page 4, I guess, might be.
What is that?
It should be down there by 60.
Oh, here it is. I'm sorry, yeah, okay. What are people who live in the chapter? What do they do to you? Well, I just, key points I found it amazing that, the people with the leprosy, they have to go see the priest and everything, but I found it amazing that the leprosy goes into the leather and other garments too. I was,
Yes.
I've read the whole Bible through several times, but I just haven't looked at Leviticus for a while. So, I was amazed by that. That was fascinating that that happened.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it's fascinating how, like if they did everything the priest said, usually they came back and they were cleansed, they were healed.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jacob, question 61, please. You still there, Jacob?
I had it up here, I'm sorry.
It's all right, not a problem.
61. What is the key point to observe from this chapter, and what do they mean to you? Yeah, this is a serious disease here. It's still on our planet here some places.
It is.
Yeah. I was thinking, well, the answers, people were answering this, but it seems like the world is coming to the confessing church, and it seems like anybody that really wants to stand on biblical principles, they're the ones that are put out.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. It's backwards, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's backwards.
Remember that history of fundamentalism?
Yes.
They have to leave the churches because they got taken over by these people.
Yes.
They tried the separation thing, but I guess that's why it has to go to house churches now. It has to be a solid thing too. When it says over there in 1 Corinthians 5, a little leaven, the whole lump, they're not kidding by that. It don't take much. Not just in the preacher. The preacher is preaching under the power of the Holy Ghost, and the people should be left that way too. If it's not like that, there's problems.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how topsy-turvy it is. But that question 60, I was reminded of this song. I had the words pulled up. It's by H.T. Spence.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just read the second verse. The modernists and liberals are advancing. New heresies mutating every day. The song of love and peace they now are singing. Deception veils the truth and dims the way. The refrain is militant against the apostasy, but magnificent for the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
What he means by that magnificent is still preaching the truth in love, like it says over there in Philippians 1. What is that? Rob called it with that verse when this issue was brought up. The question by, I think it was Randy, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Let me look here. I will be there in a second. It was the one he didn't read. He stopped right before that. Oh yes, he was 115. He read through 16, but I'll go through 17 because it's important. Some indeed preach Christ, even of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill. The one preached Christ of contention, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my bonds. I think the cross reference for that is 1 Corinthians 11, 18 and 19. The approved shall be made manifest among us. But the other of love, knowing that I am set for the defense of the gospel. Yeah, this is, there's no way to do this in the flesh. It's all of him and none of us. Militant against the apostasy, but magnificent for the Lord. Dare to take the sword, boldly for the Lord. But within the fight, keep me spirit right. Militant against the apostasy, but magnificent for the Lord. Something like that.
All right, that's right. I think it's.
Oh, I remember that song. Did they sing out of Steve Burger Society?
No.
No, I don't think so. No.
You sing it in California.
Barbara, your thought about question 61.
The customs of the leper are those of a mourner. He was a living death, not only physically but spiritually, as cut off from his life with the community of Israel. The whole concept here is clean and unclean.
Mm-hmm.
And that brought to mind 3 passages of Scripture. One was Psalm 51. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which thou hast broken may rejoice. Hide thy face from my sins, and blot out all my transgressions. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. And Isaiah 1:8. 18. Come now, and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. If ye be willing and obedient, you shall eat of the good of the land. In Revelation 7:9, after this, behold, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. Because that's the only way we can be clean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And our garments clean, and us clean.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Joe, question 61.
I didn't see it before, but I just wrote some stuff in the class. Sometimes the plague of leprosy could be washed out of a garment, and sometimes it could not. These are the things I observed in the chapter. At other times, the garment had to be rent or torn or even burnt in the fire if plague still persisted. And personally, to me, this means that we should get rid of all impure and unclean things and associations in our lives, whether they be unclean thoughts, actions, people, or things.
Good, thank you, Joe. Mom, question 61.
I wrote, God is interested in details.
Okay. God is interested in detail. That's good. Tammy, 61.
Well, I know you told us last week that we had a question on the back, but somehow I missed it.
All right, it's understandable. It's easy to miss. Yeah.
But I didn't read all of what I put for the previous.
Okay.
And I guess the Lord maybe was helping me along because you said something about a particular verse, didn't you, or some key points. Well, key points.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not. It's an actual verse.
Okay, that's fine.
Really
That's a key point. Mm-hmm.
As far as those that were declared, well, a couple of them, verse 45 and verse 46. And the leper to whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip and cry, unclean, unclean. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone without the camp. Shall his habitation be? This is just like sin.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, that I was focusing on, it's a permanent separation from the rest of the camp.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking of without the camp, that phrase, because that's where he was living.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't going to be living with the others. And, it says that in Hebrews 13, which I've mentioned a few times in my life, in verse 13 and verse 12 of chapter 13. Wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. And then let us therefore go forth therefore unto him without the camp, bearing his reproach. So he was our sin offering, and the sin offerings were all burnt without the camp, and he was offered without the camp. And so because of the identification that we have with him, we also are to go with him. We have that identification, so we're also we're separate people. We're pilgrims and strangers on
Yes,
this
we are.
earth. So we don't fit in with the main scope of humanity because of our heavenly mindset. Because we're our city is in heaven.
Yes.
We're looking for a continual city, as it says in Galatians, maybe. So it's just, I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any more thoughts or observations about this chapter? Yes, go ahead.
This is something, just a personal thing, but when Chad and Waite was on sea duty, we lived in Nawa, which was near Ramsey, where Pastor Bob Rogers was a preacher. He was a friend of ours from our home church. And I went to hear him, and I heard him preach. I went to him faithfully, morning, evening prayer meeting. So I heard a lot.
And I only remember one sermon he preached. It's just probably my fault for not remembering, but he was talking about this chapter. What he was talking about was the leper, and how he had a cloth over his hair, and he would call out, "Unclean, unclean," and he demonstrated it. And I remember that as if it happened yesterday, that he stood there and demonstrated that. And I don't remember anything else he taught.
Okay. Except that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is too bad in a way. And but anyhow, it's from this verse 45, and the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, "Unclean, unclean." And it has no spiritual meaning or anything. I'm not going to try to bring one out of it. But I just thought it was interesting. That's what I remember from his ministry.
Bert.
He had to say he was unclean. He was forced to say he was unclean to the rest of the clean community. And that just kind of tied in to me with what Tammy said a little bit. So many people don't know they're unclean.
They're on what?
That they're unclean.
Okay, right.
That's right. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Have any more thoughts? Or
Pastor Dan,
Jacob?
I was trying to remember where the verse was. It's Hebrews 11.
Hebrews 11.
Yeah, when I read 16, I think we covered it pretty well what she was trying to say.
Yes, Hebrews. Go and read it, Jacob.
Okay. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go to a place which he should have to receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out not knowing whither he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob. That's what Christian means, a stranger in a strange land. With Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise, for he looked for a city which has foundations, the builder and maker is God. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because he just who had promised. Therefore sprang heirs, even from one who is dead, so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore, innumerable. All these died in faith, not having received promises, but having seen them afar off, were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and sojourners on the earth. And that goes with the 2 Peter chapter 2, I'm sorry. And they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country, and truly if they have been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is in heavenly, wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared them a city. And then it goes to explain that what Abraham did when he offered up Isaac there.
Any more thoughts? Thank you, Jacob. Jacob, would you please close in prayer?
Father God, thank you so much for this time together. With you as the head and us as everybody. I just want to thank you so much for precious words, faithful translation of them, and this church, and this Bible study, and the need for our society, and everybody connected with this, and all true believers throughout the whole earth, and to keep us faithful, and focused on you, and for priests to trust you more, and obey you more. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.